Silence is safer. Speaking up comes at a cost. This is the Audacity Tapes, where women have chosen courage across cultures, continents, and systems of power. I'm Robin Jorgensen. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome, everyone. Today's guest is Gretchen Evans, Army Command Sergeant Major retired, Purple Heart recipient, and one of the most decorated female veterans in U.S. history. For 27 years, her identity was service, leading troops, carrying responsibility, and never leaving anyone behind. When that ended overnight, the hardest battle wasn't physical. It was believing she still had a right to be here and something left to give. Gretchen, welcome to the Audacity Tapes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Likewise. All right, so let's dive in. 20 years ago this month, something happened. It didn't just injure you. It ended one life and demanded another. Take us back to February 2006. What happened? And what do you think people need to understand about that moment in order to understand everything that followed?
So in February of 2006, I was in Afghanistan, serving as Command Sergeant Major for garrisons in the country. And that particular day, I was out visiting troops who were at the very tip of the spearhead, to say like they were on a forward operating base right at the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And I was just going out there to kind of a morale visit, just to say, hang in there. We're almost starting to rotate home. Hopefully in 60 days, you're going to be back home. And so I landed, hopped out of my helicopter, started walking to the troops. And then all of a sudden we started receiving mortar fire. And it was coming in like rain. I mean, just peppering us. There's really nothing you can do yourself when you're getting, rounds lobbed at you from miles away, except you call in, for air support to have the air support people go take care of whoever it is that's shooting at you. And the rest, until that happens, the safest thing that you can do is get inside these concrete bunkers that we have at every forward operating base and wait until the bombs stop so that hopefully you're somewhat, protected from these incoming rounds. So I started yelling at the troops, get in the bunkers, get in the bunkers. And then a round landed to my right. And, somehow, it's amazing how fast your brain can process information because it is cacophony of noise. People yelling and, all kinds of bombs going off and rockets hitting and all kinds of things going on. I heard that round and my brain said to me, if you can hear that round, it's too close. And so I knew that I had about, we say 9 airborne seconds, which is like just a couple of seconds before that thing detonated. And there wasn't anything I could do. Okay.
Right.
It was too close. It was too fast. But anyway, it did detonate. And then when it did, it threw up all this barrage of, shrapnel and dirt and rock and all the things that were above it. And the eyewitnesses, I don't remember this part, but the eyewitnesses said that blast took me and threw me horizontally through the air until I hit one of those concrete bunkers head first. And even though I had a Kevlar helmet on, the impact was pretty brutal.
Ooh. What do you want people to understand about that moment?
I think, what I would say to people is, nobody had control of that round. It was, I had spent 27 years. This was my 9th combat tour. You never think it's going to happen to you. There's no blame in this. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happened.
Yeah.
And so you have to absorb the fact that you can't go back and say, if I woulda, shoulda, coulda, there's no reason to do that. It happened. Now you got to play the hand you've been dealt.
Yeah. So in that moment, you were ripped from your troops, your peers, your fellow leaders. All of that was gone in an instant.
Yeah, so they medevacked me to Bagram first and then to Landstuhl, and they put me in a medically induced coma just to evaluate all the injuries that I had, and that's I'm kind of grateful for that 3 or 4 day nap. Probably the best sleep I've had in combat. Okay.
Right.
And so then when they woke me up, a young doctor was standing at my bed. And the one thing that he needed me to know, because that was the one thing that was going to be the hardest for me to deal with. All the injuries that I had were, severe in of themselves. But the one thing we had to address was the fact that I couldn't hear anymore, that I was deaf. And so because I couldn't communicate at this point. So he was at the foot of my bed and he had a dry erase board. He had written the words, "You're Jeff." And so when they woke me up, he showed it to me. And I had to kind of process that. And what do you mean I'm deaf? Okay, temporarily, because you know how when you get a loud sound, you lose your hearing for a little bit, and then your earbuds or whatever, they regain the hearing. But this was not going to happen for me. And so I wrote the word "forever" on that dry erase board, and he nodded. And so I will tell you that in that 1 second where I found out that I was permanently deaf, I knew one thing for sure, that I wouldn't be able to serve in the military anymore, because you cannot serve as a deaf person. So I didn't care about any of the other injuries. I had a closed head wound. I had shrapnel wounds all over my body. My internal organs had all been, and I could have cared less. What I knew was, because I thought to myself, all those things can be fixed. Okay, but I can't fix this deafness. And so that was the thing that, probably brought me to my knees, was that one injury ended my military career.
Yeah. What did that do to your sense of self?
For me, it was 27 years I've been in. I went in at 19. I was 46. So my whole adult life had been in the military. And I didn't have a plan B. People start preparing for retirement. They start thinking, what I want to do next. They start making all these plans. I never even thought about retirement, because I could have stayed in the military until I was 60. So I still had, 14 years left. And like I said, you never think it's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
It's just never. So I was devastated. I was afraid. I think I went through the whole gamut. I was angry that it did happen. All those feelings, but the biggest one was a sense of loss.
Yeah. Yeah. Losing all of your people and your sense of identity. Yeah. When you were forced to become a civilian, you were suddenly
instantly.
living in, you were
It's
living
not a gradual thing. You're in the active duty one day, wearing your uniform, and then the next day when something like that happens, you're a civilian. And there's no it's like a light switch. And to wrap your brain and just your whole self around that transition, okay, especially when it's abrupt and unpredicted at that point. Well, it was a lot. It was a lot. I'm thankful that I was mature and I had wisdom on my side. And, because this happens to 20-year-olds. And, they didn't have the maturity maybe that I had, or the wisdom that I had, or the ability to advocate for myself that I had. And so, it was really very real for me. This is what happens when people get catastrophically injured, whether it be in combat or a car accident or whatever it is. All of a sudden, your whole life has taken a sharp turn.
Yeah. So when you were forced to become a civilian, you've said that you were suddenly living inside this world that you didn't understand because you had never been a part of it. What was most disorienting about
as
that?
an adult, I'd never really been in just the total civilian world. People say, well, the military, you could live off base, have your own house, but it is a whole different world in the military as far as what your duties are and how you execute your duties than it is in the civilian life. Like, there's no start and end time that's set. You get up and do whatever you need to do whenever commander or the sergeant major says so. So your day may start at 0300 in the morning, and it might not end till midnight. And there's no extra pay. It's unpredictable. This is what we have to deal with today. And when it gets done, that's when we get home. And it might not get done till 9 o'clock at night, or it might get done at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so it's this whole mind frame of we train and we work to task, not to time. So in the civilian world, I found there's like a work day. Okay. And doesn't matter. And if you go past that, then there's sometimes overtime, or there's compensation. Like, okay, take tomorrow morning off since you work till 10 o'clock. In the military, that is not the way that it works. That was one of the very first things that I had to encounter. And then just the day-to-day up tempo of the civilian life. You know, you're just not familiar with it. And so it's another thing that you have to deal with as you're trying to transition. Plus I had these injuries, you know, I was deaf. I had a traumatic brain injury. I had all these things that on top of this change that I was trying to
Yeah.
deal with.
Yeah. You've described this period as feeling like an oxygen thief walking the face of the earth
Yeah.
and having to convince yourself that you even had a right to be alive.
Yeah.
What made that belief so hard to hold on to?
I think I sucked at being a civilian first, and I did feel like, you know, I was an oxygen thief. What am I doing here? I was a soldier. I don't have anything to contribute to the civilian world. I don't understand it. So how am I supposed to help?
Yeah.
And, you know, and like, I would say this for me, that I was disappointed that I just hadn't been killed, because that would have been
Mm.
the easier route. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then you're done, you go out a hero, all is good in the world. Now I'm having to like navigate this world that I don't really want to be in, I don't feel comfortable in, and certainly don't feel like I'm contributing to. So you have this, what am I doing here? Am I just wasting people's time and mine too? And how do I figure out what's next? It was hard to even explain what my value of walking the face of the earth was, because it was so foreign to most people.
Yeah. So that sense of worthlessness didn't just stay internal, though. It kind of showed up in how you started to move through the world. You were running 12, 14 miles a day, literally trying to disappear.
Yeah.
But then there was a moment when that coping mechanism collided with reality, when you didn't hear a cyclist coming up behind you, they hit you and they threw you into traffic. What did that moment force you to confront about how you were trying to survive?
Yeah. So I remember looking up when the cyclist hit me, I'm in traffic, and a guy driving a Mercedes, you know, almost hit me. And I remember looking up and I could see his bumper. I was underneath it. And the first thought I had was I was disappointed that once again I had evaded death, because that would have been the easier choice. And on my way to the VA, because I had a broken clavicle and a bunch of other things that were wrong, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, here we go again. You know what? Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And then when the doctor came in and said to me, he kind of got in my face a little bit. And I think that he was afraid too. Here's this deaf person out running. She gets hit by a cyclist, thrown into traffic. How am I going to keep this person alive?
Right.
Which is his job. Okay. And I think what he didn't understand was that I was wanting to die at that point. So I could have cared less. But he kind of got in my face and he says, Gretchen, you can't do the things that you used to do anymore. You've changed. And there was something that, and saying those words, that's the first time everybody said those words to me, that you can't do the things that you used to do anymore. And all of a sudden the fight somehow inside of me rose to the occasion and said, no, if I'm going to be here, if I'm not dead, if I'm going to be here and I'm going to live in this world, then I'm going to live it on my terms and I'm going to get my life back. So that was pivotal to me, when those words that were spoken out loud. I think everybody thought them, but nobody ever said them to me before.
Right. They were probably afraid to say those to you.
Yeah, like, you can't do what you used to be. You're not the person you used to be. And I thought, no, I am. That rocket took my hearing. It took part of my brain. It took part of my face. It took all kinds of things from me. But what it really didn't take from me was the Gretchen deep inside of me. Okay, the fighter, the person who cared about other people, the leader, the soldier, the service person who was wanted to serve others in whatever capacity that could. And those words landed hard on my heart, and all of a sudden ignited this. No, I'm not going down like this. I'm
Yeah.
not going to give that rocket total control over the rest of my life. If I'm stuck here on this side of the dirt net, okay, then I'm going to live the life on my terms.
Yeah. So after he said that to you, he said something else as well. He said, do they train service dogs for deaf people? What was it like to almost have that one door close and another possibility open at the same time?
Yeah. So I never even thought about a service dog. And I thought, how could this help someone like me? Okay. I mean, really, can a dog make my life better? Okay. What does that look like? And so I went home and did some research. And I thought, well, it can't hurt. Okay. I'm hanging on by a thread at this point, really, emotionally, mentally. And I thought, well, let's just see. So I kind of planted a seed. And so I did a bunch of research. And I was looking at all over on Google, trying to find all these service dog organizations for somebody who trained a dog for a deaf person. And none of them specifically said that they did until I got to America's Vet Dogs. And they didn't say that they train dogs for deaf people. What their mission statement, we're military, we're all about mission statements. What is it that you contribute to the world? That's your mission statement. And they said, we provide service dogs to veterans who have any injury free of cost. Any injury. Any injury, any disability, whatever the verbiage was. And I said,
Yeah.
well, there you go. And
That's
so
me.
I wrote a
Yeah.
very short, because I'm like 6 hours back from the hospital. I've got my arms in a sling. I've still got a road rash, and but I was determined. And I wrote a very simple email because I didn't have a lot to give at this point. Okay, I'm on a wing and a prayer, emotionally, mentally, and said, I have a traumatic brain injury. I'm deaf, and then can you help me? Basically, can you help me? And then I said, send. And then what I hit send, and I stayed on sitting at my desk, scrolling through whatever. And then there was a really quick return. Of course, you never think that's good news. It's like a jury going out with a guilty verdict and coming in really quickly. And I thought,
Right.
okay, here we go. Another, fruitful, trying to find something to help with trying to get me back on the road of living.
Right.
And I said a prayer to myself. I really did. I said, Gretchen, are you prepared to open this and get a rejection? Because if you're not, you need to walk away right now. And of course,
Wow.
that's not the answer because, bad news doesn't go away.
Right.
So it
Still
doesn't
sit
do you
there.
any, yeah, it's not like wine. It doesn't get better with old age. Okay.
Right.
So I said, let's just tough up and let's open it. So open it up. And there was one word on that email from America's Vet Dogs. And all it said was yes. What I didn't know at that time that now I know was that when they got that email, the head trainer got the email and took it to all the trainers and said, this veteran needs our help. And they had never trained a dog for a deaf person
Oh,
before.
wow.
But they train dogs for everything else. Okay, turn on lights, to get medicine out of the refrigerator, to help people who are quadriplegic, to help people who are blind, to help people who all kinds of things. So she said, literally, if we can do that, we can train a dog for a deaf person. So I'm going to say yes to this person because I think she needs a yes. And we're going to figure it out. The beauty in that, and when I learned this was a lesson I'll never forget, is the power of the word yes. So that one word gave me hope. I didn't know all the chaos it was causing at America's Vet Dogs. All I
Right.
knew is that when I asked a question, can you help me? They came back and said yes. And that's all I needed to take the next breath. It
Yeah.
gave me hope.
Wow. And it was like a 7-month wait, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It takes 2 years to train these dogs, but the first 16 months is just basic getting a service dog ready for whatever their person needs, because these aren't cookie cutter dogs. These dogs are trained for a specific veteran. But the first 16 months, you're potty training them, you're teaching them good obedience, and these dogs are trained not to bark, those kinds of things. So the last 7 months are when they really hone in the skills that are needed for a specific veteran.
Got it.
So when I finally reached back out to them and said, okay, what does yes look like? They said, yeah, we're going to start training your dog. And they did a deep dive because this is the first hearing dog they ever trained. What does a dog need to do to help a deaf person? They need to alert me to sounds that I can't hear.
Right. Yeah. So when your first dog arrived, Aura, when she came into your life, you've said that she didn't just save your life, she saved it and then she gave you purpose.
So she saved it because now it's all the struggles I was facing, I wasn't facing by myself. So I had Aura. And so there's something about journeying through I think any journey when you got somebody by your side. And her so full focus was on me. Aura wasn't trying to please the world. Aura wasn't trying to, do anything. Her sole purpose was to help me navigate life. And when someone is dedicated, whether it's a four-legged person or dog or whatever, it changes everything. And so all of a sudden, I just didn't feel like, man, I'm just like treading water here. I've got a dog here whose purpose is to help me succeed. And so and also she was so loving and kind and so happy. I mean, you can't even get mad at her. She's a beautiful Labrador, a golden retriever mix, big brown eyes, just the most loving thing I'd ever seen. No judgment. She didn't care what happened to me. She just cared, what are we doing now, Gretchen? I
Right.
don't care that you got blown up. Okay, what I care is that I'm here to help you. And so she saved my life. She gave me hope. She gave me joy. I was able to navigate the world a little bit easier with Aura by my side. And then she was allowed for me to say, what's next?
So let's dive in.
I'm past this feeling sorry for myself. I'm past the shock of being blown up and being a deaf person. Now I'm on a whole nother level. Now I'm going, okay, what's next?
Yeah. So let's dive into what's next. So today you lead an amazing organization called Team Unbroken. But before it had a name, it began with an email from your friend Eric Weinmeier, the first blind person to summit Everest, which is pretty amazing. And he told you that they were bringing back the world's toughest race, the Eco Challenge in Fiji. And he encouraged you to put together a mixed ability team. So when that email landed, what told you this wasn't just an invitation, but maybe the start of a new mission?
Yeah, Eric's a dear friend, and of course, being a blind guy, he gets it. Okay, you gotta live your life with passion and purpose. And Eric kind of knew that I was struggling to find that next thing. Okay, and so he said, and you've asked Eric, he'll tell you, I just saw it and thought, well, this would be perfect for Gretchen. Okay, and so he just kind of sent it. He didn't put a lot of thought behind it. He just said, Gretchen, I think you got to put a team together and go compete in the world's toughest race. And so I got this from Eric, and it coming from someone who I knew who understood what it's like to have a disability thrown on
Yeah.
you. Okay, because Eric wasn't born blind. Eric became blind as a teenager, and gradually, and then and then that didn't stop him. But he kind of led the same life that I did. At first, he was like, "Really? Now I'm blind, and I'm a middle schooler, and how do I do the things that I want to do?" And then he figured it out. Okay, and he had something that he put in front of him. I want to climb Mount Everest as the first blind man. And so I think he knew I needed something like that. So he sent it to me and I got it and I thought, okay, let's do this. And so I called up, all my blown up friends, all the people that I knew had these catastrophic injuries and says, I want to take people like us to go compete against able-bodied people. So just to demonstrate that we're not broken. Okay, people look at you and they look, and it's not out of malice and it's not out of meanness or anything like that. They look at you and you can tell they think that something's broken. I'm a deaf person. You can see my injuries on my face, and if I'm not totally covered, I've got scars all over. And it's a sympathy and empathy thing. But to the person that you're looking at, you're saying, no, get past that. Don't let those outward scars convince you that there's something wrong with me, because there's really nothing wrong with me, okay,
Right.
other than scars that I can't make go away. But I'm not broken. And that's actually where the name came from. I've said that to people. I'm not broken. Don't look at me like I am, because I'm not. So I called a bunch of friends and that were athletes and had a life-enduring injuries, illness, or trauma that happened to them. And we put in an application to compete. We got a rejection, like within 2 hours of rejection. Okay, another one of those fast emails, okay, that never bring good news, okay?
Right.
And when I asked why, the kind of the gatekeeper that was reviewing all the applications says, look, this is the world's toughest race. This makes an Ironman look like a church picnic. She goes, these are elite athletes who've been doing this for years. And I said, yeah, and she goes, you guys are like damaged and you're disabled. And I thought, and then I said, first of all, I think you legally can't say that to me, because I think it's illegal to say that we're disabled people, but whatever. And then secondly, I said, did you read all the things that we accomplished? You know, because as I was running these crazy miles and everything, I mean, I was running marathons and doing ultra races and beating people who were all put together. Okay. I mean, competing against able-bodied people and beating them. And then one of my friends, Keith, who was on the team, he just placed third in the Ninja Warrior competition. His whole right side didn't work because he had been injured. And then Hal's back had been broken. And then Ann's a type 1 diabetic. I mean, but we were winning against people who had nothing wrong with them. And I said,
Right.
did you read our athletic abilities? And she goes, and she couldn't get past the disabilities. And so
Wow.
I finally said, are you the final decision maker? And she goes, well, no. And I said, well, I need to talk to that person. And so, believe it or not, Bear Grylls and Mark Burnett got on a Zoom call with me. And the beautiful part about this is that they're both veterans. They both
Right.
served in the British military. And I remember Mark saying this to me. He says, Gretchen, I've looked at, your application. And he goes, I want to say yes to Team Unbroken, but I'm afraid. I said, Mark, what are you afraid of? And he goes, I'm afraid you guys are going to get hurt. I said, Mark, we've already been hurt. We've been blown to smithereens, most of us. And he started laughing. And I said, here's what I'm asking, Mark. Forget about that. I said, put us on the same playing field with everybody else. If we wash out on the first day, that's on us. But if you say no to Team Unbroken, you're saying to a whole population of people that we can't. And I said, quite frankly, Mark, you don't get to say that to us. We get to pick what we think we can and can't do. Our disabilities do not define who we are or what we can accomplish. And Mark said, gosh, Gretchen, when you say it like that, you make me sound like an asshole. And I said, don't be an asshole, Mark.
Right.
So Mark said, yes. And we're back to that. The power of yes. He said yes. And he was afraid. What he didn't, and legitimately so, he didn't want war heroes competing in a reality show, the world's toughest race, if you will, and they get hurt, because that would have been career ending for Mark. Okay, you don't take a bunch of people who serve their country and kill them in the jungles in Fiji. Okay,
Right.
so legitimately he had a concern, but I said, we're going to be okay, Mark. Okay, and so we went out there, and then it took 2 or 3, it's a 10-day race, and only 20% of the teams ever finish. It's so arduous and so crazy, and it's meant to weed out until it gets down to the climax of the 2 or 3 teams that are left. Okay, and these are teams, like I said, they all had sponsors like Nike and Specialized and Trek, and we had no sponsors. We didn't have one dime between us. We didn't have any equipment. So I had to beg and borrow and plead, and we had to raise $50,000 to go to Fiji. And I did it $5 at a time. I went to people and said, I need you to believe in us. I need you to help us get to this, because what we're doing is not about competing in the race.
Right.
What we're doing is we're showing people like us in the world that what happened to us is not a period. It's a comma. It's just a comma in life. Okay, we've been given a comma, and now we're going on. And so people did. I mean, like literally, we raised $50,000 to go and compete in Fiji. So when Mark was editing all the film, they put a camera guy on the Team Unbroken. And at the end of the day, when he released it on Amazon Prime,
Which it's still there. If anyone wants to go and watch it, it's still there.
He only featured 10 teams, and Team Unbroken was one of them.
Out of 66, you were one of the 10 featured, which is pretty remarkable.
And he said, I couldn't not watch the footage of Team Unbroken and how all of you navigated these crazy, hard things to do. And in the way that you did it with such grace and such, enthusiasm, and how you helped each member of the team accommodate. We call ourselves mixed ability people. For every ability we lost due to whatever happened to us, we added an ability, and for me, the rocket, rendered me deaf, but I learned to lip read. So I added an ability that I didn't have before.
Yeah.
So everybody on my team has overcome whatever happened to them by finding a way around that injury. And we've had to learn to do things differently. And so we've all become what we call mixed ability people.
Yeah. So let me just set the stage a little bit deeper for this race. This was over 400 miles in 10 days through the jungle, through the swamp, over the mountains. This was arduous. You've talked about, this is a competition, obviously, but the way that Team Unbroken handled themselves was inspiring to the other teams because you were all about service still and helping anybody because it wasn't about the competition for you. And that really rubbed off on other teams. Talk about that a little bit more.
It did, because they're very competitive. This is how some of these people, like, literally, there's a prize. Okay, there's $100,000 if you win the race. And this is people who are really serious about this. And for us, the victory was just getting to compete. That was a victory for us. So we were not this cutthroat team. Plus, we were wired differently too. So for us, success looks like everybody getting able to compete at the best that they can. And so there were checkpoints all through the race that if you didn't have a specific piece of equipment, you couldn't move forward. And it gets lost in the jungle. You're, like I said, I can't even tell you how crazy this race was, but people would, lose like an ascender. And so we came to a checkpoint and there was a team there, a very competitive team. And they were about to get kicked out of the race because they lost a piece of equipment.
Wow.
Well, being in the military, we have two of everything because we know that happens, okay? And we came up to him and I said, I have an extra one. Would you like it? And the guy looked at me and he said, you're stupid for offering that. And I said, well,
wow.
Why? And he says, what happens if you need it later? And I said, you know what? I'll cross that bridge when I have to. But right now, you're dead in the water unless you take this from me, and we're happy to give it to you. I said, maybe you can pay it forward down the race. Maybe I'll need something and I'll see you and you can help me out. And, they just couldn't wrap their minds, because here's an opportunity for us to kick out one of the top contenders by saying, oh, you're on your own. And had it been any other team, that's what would have happened.
But you don't leave anybody behind.
We don't leave anybody behind. You're exactly right. So we gave it to them and they went on. And so the other teams started talking about us as the nice team. The nice team. You know what? And that's the reputation that we have. I'll take it.
Right. Yeah. So for people just hearing about Team Unbroken after the world's toughest race, talk a little bit more about what you do, the challenges that you embark on, and what participation looks like for you guys literally all over the world. Tell me more.
Yeah. So after we competed in the race, and then Mark highlighted us on Amazon Prime, and then 6 months after Mark released that, I got an email from Mark and he says, Gretchen, I have a favor. And I said, Mark, anything for you. And he goes, I've got hundreds of thousands of emails and Instagram posts saying that Team Unbroken changed people's lives. That people who are suffering from, I can't because something's happened to me, or it's too hard, or whatever it is, looked at Team Unbroken navigate these arduous, tasks, these 10 days in Fiji with grit and gumption and, helpfulness and niceness, or whatever you want to say. And he goes, I need you to, one, keep telling your story. And two, I need Team Unbroken to keep doing what you're doing because you're changing people's lives. So this became more than just a race for Mark too. Mark, that one yes that he reluctantly gave now has opened his eyes to a whole nother world of, look at what this can do for people. So I said yes to Mark. So I told the team, okay, we got to go and we got to keep doing this. So we would ask for sponsors, from companies and organization people, and say, would you sponsor Team Unbroken? And then we want to take some people with us. So then we would go around and ask people who were like us, that had something catastrophic happen to us, saying, what is your dream? And we had one guy say, I want to climb Kilimanjaro. So 18 months ago, we took 8 combat veterans up to the top of Kilimanjaro. And what I can say is that they don't think that they can, but we have the rope team concept that we're tied to each other. We're tied to each other, okay? And if you slip and fall, we're going to stand there until you can get back up, and we're all going to get to the top of the mountain, and it's not necessarily just a top of the mountain. It could be anything, cross the finish line of a marathon, or do a long hike, or whatever it is that looks like to you that brings you joy and puts a goal out there so you can quit thinking about what happened to you and not make it a period. We go back to the comma. It's not a period. It's just a comma. Now let's go forward. So our whole mission, if you will, Team Unbroken, is to engage with people who need a little bit of partnership on the journey, to show them that whatever happened to you doesn't define you or what you can do. Let us show you what this looks like, and we will partner with you and we'll go. And so we go out and we do Kilimanjaro. We've done hundreds of marathons. We've done long hikes. We've done the part of the Camino Santiago. We do whatever it is. So we find people who need help, and then we make it happen through generous contribution through organizations out there.
Yeah. And you've been very intentional about combining both veterans and civilians.
Yes.
Why was that mix so important to you?
I learned very early on in my transition that I can't just surround myself with other veterans. Okay. That's not reality. Reality is we're 1% of the population. I have to learn to be part of the 99%. And so the Team Unbroken, which is not really, it's a never-ending team. There's not just a specific number. Anybody can be on Team Unbroken that wants to be on Team Unbroken. Just come join us, okay?
Yeah.
It's not an organization. We don't have dues. We don't have all that kind of stuff. We are a living, breathing group of people, okay? And so, yes, civilian and military. And I like to interchange them because that's what the world looks like. And so I don't want to make a false thing of saying, oh, we military people, we can do this. No, I need civilians in there too. One is they need to know about us, and we need to know about them.
Right. It's that collaboration and unity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Team Unbroken meets people after an identity interruption has occurred.
Yes.
Something that once defined a person is gone. What does Team Unbroken make possible for people at that point?
I think we make it possible for them to realize that, yes, something has changed in your life, okay? But again, it was like the epiphany that I had when the doctor got in my face. And I think people tell people when something catastrophic happens, okay, you've been dealt a new hand, and so you had 4 kings and an ace, now you got 4 2s and a 3. Well, that's not true. It might look like that in the beginning, okay, but the thing is, we provide them the experience to say, this doesn't have to define you. Come with us. We're going to show you that you can live your best life, whatever that looks like to you. And we do use, I would say, athletic things to demonstrate that, because I think that gives us the venue of saying hard things to say, do this. And then once they turn that corner and they realize, okay, I'm not defined by what happened anymore. Okay. It could just be a trauma. I'm not defined by it anymore. Then that opens the door to employability, being the person, the job that you always want to do. Maybe you thought you couldn't because your injuries kept you. Like, I never thought I'd be employed again as a deaf person. Who would hire me? Okay. I'm deaf. I can't answer the phone. Okay. So then it propels to them being a contributor to society in a powerful way, and they're becoming a better family member because they're not caught up in the what happened to me anymore.
Yeah. What is that invisible wound that Team Unbroken is actually addressing? The one that most people never name.
Self-doubt. We address self-doubt. We address the feeling sorry for yourself. It's okay. I mean, something happened to you. You can feel a little sorry for yourself, but don't let that own you. Okay. And the fact that we still have a responsibility out there to each other, the whole rope team concept. Okay. I want to be part of something that's contributing for the better of the common good. Find out what that looks like to you as an individual, and we will get you there. We will help get you there.
Yeah. So you almost have an anthem at the heart of Team Unbroken, which is what's within you is stronger than anything in your way.
Exactly.
Where did that belief come from?
Oh,
and how did you reclaim
That's
it?
Eric's line. We stole it from Eric, but it so resonated from what's within you. So there's all the things that the rocket took away from me. What it didn't touch was what was within me is always been stronger than what's in my way. And as soon as you can show people that, you can say it all day long, but you almost have to show it to them. And that's what Team Unbroken, we show it to them. deep inside of you is still that grit and that gumption and that resilience and that hope that you had before whatever happened to you. You're
Right.
still that person. It's just been clouded over by whatever trauma that you've experienced. And so we help them break through that and realize that they're still that same person. They may look different. They may have to operate a little bit on a different, way of dressing things, but you're still that person.
Yeah. So you just mentioned grit. How do people in general tap into that grit when they're convinced they've just taken their last step? Where do you find that?
We, grit's a funny thing. People think it's drudging through, that it's dragging through, that it's exhaustion, that it's and it's so not that. What grit really is that mental change in your brain and in the heart of your soul that says, I am stronger than this. Okay. This may hurt right now and this may be hard right now, but I'm going to persevere because I know on the other side of whatever this is where the dreams come true.
Mm.
So it's just not giving yourself permission to quit. You can re-navigate, you can even stop and rest, but not just to quit. Okay, let's stop and rest for a minute. Let's reevaluate what we're going to do this. Now, on the other side is where our dream lives. So it's going to be hard, and quitting sounds so much better.
Right. And easier, right?
Easier, so
Easier.
much better.
Yeah.
Or you can even convince yourself that it wasn't meant to be because it's too hard. And that's where we really find the fight within ourselves. I don't deserve this, or this really is too hard for someone of my mixed abilities. And as soon as you start telling yourself that, you've lost the battle. So what we try to do is help them push through that. It's like the wall in a marathon. It's like mile 20 at the marathon. Yeah, that's where your body says, I've had enough, but I want to shut down. And then you got to say, look, you're just 6 miles from the finish line. Just get past. It's a moment in time. It's almost impulsive. It's a moment in time when your body is telling you to quit, or your
Right.
brain is telling you to quit. When all self-doubt sets in, it's just a second. And if you can get past that second, that's what grit really is. That 1 second when you want to quit, get past it. Because once you get past that, then you're good. You're good. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's easy, but it's not holding you back.
Yeah. When you think of all of the adventures that Team Unbroken has been on over the past 7 years, is there one that really stands out, either that you're most proud of or that was the most fun?
We did Antelope Canyon, which is a 50K race, but it also incorporates some ropes and some ladder climbs, and it's in the middle of nowhere, and the sand is almost calf deep. It's a crazy race. And the reason I say that one was because we took 4 people, brand new people, okay, with us. And all along the way, these poor, and it wasn't even a lot for Team Unbroken. We went a little bit ill prepared in the sense that we didn't do a lot of like research, and so we didn't have gloves. We were missing.
Where was this in the world, Gretchen?
This was in Arizona, yeah.
Okay.
So it's called Antelope Canyon, 50K, and so what was beautiful about this was that the new people got to see the seasoned Team Unbroken struggle a little bit.
Mm.
So they got to see not just talking about what grit, but they got to see it actually manifest itself, because they took some grit for us, okay, to navigate some of these challenges. But the most beautiful thing that people in Team Unbroken will say is that when we crossed that finish line and we were arm in arm with tears streaming down our face, because it was like the hardest 17 hours of our lives for a long time, you can't manifest that feeling any other way.
Mm. That's
You know?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a year ago this month, you got to hear your own voice for the first time in 19 years after being told that you were going to be deaf forever. What was that moment like?
I have to take a minute because I still can, it's fresh. It was only a little over a year ago. In fact, right at a year. I didn't believe it at first that I was hearing, and it wasn't clear, okay, because a cochlear implant, I've been deaf for 20 years, takes your brain to remember how to hear. Okay, so I was hearing sounds that I had not had, like a train whistle. When he first played the train whistle, I said, I hear it, but I don't know what it is because my
Yeah.
brain had forgotten what that sounds like. He says it's a train. But when he first turned on the cochlear implant after surgery, and he started playing just sounds, I could hear them. And he said, I want to play something that you remember. And it sounds cokey, but I said, can you play Sweet Caroline from Neil Diamond? Because everybody knows that song, right? I had not heard music in 20 years, so I couldn't think of a song that I knew the words to, except for that one. And he played it. And because I was familiar with the tune, my brain engaged quickly, and I remembered the words. And it was like, I never thought it would happen.
Yeah. So for our listeners, there's an Instagram post that shows Gretchen listening for the first time. It brought me to tears. We will include that in the show notes because it's incredibly powerful. Yeah. And now you get to hear your grandson's voice too.
Yeah, I have a 2-year-old grandson who I'd never heard his voice, and he's running in my house right now, and his little giggle and his little calling my name. So,
what does he call you?
he calls me Gigi.
That's beautiful. So when you look at your life now, where is audacity still being asked of you?
Oh, we're not done. We're not done by a long shot because life is challenging, and as it should be. We welcome the challenges, but when you can face the challenges with people who have your best interest at heart, people who are saying, I want to see you turn that corner. I want to see you take that period and turn it into a comma. It's so much better. So Team Unbroken, we are determined, okay, to continue doing what we're doing. It's our destiny. It's what we feel like we were put on earth to do. So we're looking for people who need a rope team. People who have self-doubt, people who are scared. We say, come find us. And we will make it happen, And like I said, we don't have a budget. We don't have a staff. Nobody's a paid employee. And it always comes. I don't know where it comes from, but it always comes. In those beautiful ways. We partner with companies and organizations that says, we want to help this dream come true for these people. Because in the long run, it benefits everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Society in general benefits from people learning that they are worthy, that they are capable, that they are wanted, they are part of something. Everybody benefits from that.
For sure. Where can our listeners learn more about Team Unbroken? Where would they go?
So you can go to my personal website, which is easy to remember, www.gretchensropeteam.com, or you can follow us on Instagram, Team Unbroken USA.
Fantastic. Gretchen, it's been an honor to have you on the show. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And blessings to you and yours and everybody who's out there. Live your best life.
Absolutely. To our listeners, we'll see you back here next time. Take care, everybody.